or anti-Bible, for any government or any political party to be advancing such, definitely you will have issues with some of these people or this class of the society. Now, these are the people that Trump went after. So they identified with him more. And they were able to sell his candidature. As a business person, he understands the body language of the American investors and those who run the economy. He is one of them. So he knows these ones have the money to throw around. He had everything smooth for him. It's just that, and unfortunately too, he's going to contest against a party that defeated him based on some allegations which they could not maintain. It was COVID that defeated Trump the last time. That is just the truth. Not that Biden was so fantastic or did well during the debate. But the thing is, more than 500,000 Americans lost their life to COVID-19. It was more than enough excuse for Trump to give. There was nothing to justify the loss of life. To them, you could have done better. You could have done a lot to prevent the loss of that American lives. He downplayed the COVID thing from the onset, and that was why he was punished for it. And that was why he lost. And he remained the only person in history, in the U.S. history, to have contested 3 American presidential elections back to back. And fortunately, won 2.
All right, Mr. Bajek, we'll be right back after the short commercial break. Please stay with us.
Ṣí ayọ̀, tú ìtọ́wò àdùn sílẹ̀.
Thank you for staying with us. We are still talking about Trump's presidency, and we have Mr. Sumbo Badejoko, a political analyst, still here in the studio with us, giving insights and his own personal thoughts on the second coming, like I would say, on Trump's presidency. Mr. Badejoko, let's look at the issue of Trump either being vindictive or not, trying to rewrite what his predecessor has done in 4 years. Imagine signing 48 executive orders in a day and more still coming. Is he trying to be vindictive? And also, to buttress that, let's look at the manifesto guiding. Is it supposed to be a party manifesto, or the winner just comes in and throws his own personal interest manifesto? Bringing it back home now, Nigeria, because we see a lot of that playing out in Nigeria also. Now, should it not be a party-backed manifesto? Should it be personal? Is Trump trying to be vindictive? In
the American society, the manifesto is to the individual. Okay. That's the candidate. Party has its ideology. In Nigeria, we mix things up. Our political parties do not have ideology in real sense. There are some, like the APC, who want to say they are progressive, but the truth of the matter is they are not. The party is the one that will still be talking about manifesto. And that's where the mix is. His executive orders were in line with what he believed in, and they are in line with the party's ideology. Now, saying that, well, the country will start producing again. The Republicans believe in what is called rugged individualism. They don't believe in handouts, government handouts, which the Democrats kind of believe. And they believe that, well, we cannot be exporting our jobs to foreign countries. And that's a good number of what the executive order are all about. And they believe that, well, these immigrants coming in, is not actually anti-immigrants, because there's a misconception there. It just will not allow you come into their country illegally, because record has shown that most of these illegal migrants commit more crimes than the legal ones. So it wants a situation, and it's particular about Mexico because only 2 countries of the world share land border with the United States, Mexico and Canada. You understand? They've not had any problem with Canada. They've always had issues with Mexico. Some will say probably because Mexico is third world. That is perhaps. And Canada too. We want to say they are not, but Canada is a NATO country. So they have so many things in common. But Mexico has land boundaries for the border with 4 American states: Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and California. Now, that border that stretch across those 4 states, they've not been able to man it. Why? Because they will definitely be porous. That's why I said he's going to deploy military to man those borders, because it just does not want any illegal crossing across that axis. But where he may have been getting it wrong is that those who are the native of that area are also, they were just unfortunate to have been in different countries. They're the same people. The Latinos and the Mexicans are Latinos. You understand? As a matter of fact, as they have California in the US, they also have California in Mexico. That's the irony of the whole thing. So when you look at that, they look alike, they speak the same language apart from the American English. They speak the same native language. They're the same people. It's just like talking about our brothers in the north and those from the Niger Republic. So it will be difficult to say Nigeria want to close the border between Nigeria and Niger. You will have issues like it happened recently. So that's what he may be facing. There will be Native Americans that will not cooperate with that policy. The armed forces is deploying. Some of them are also Latinos who would look the other way, because how can you say my kinsmen should not come in? Because if you look at all this influx that he is talking about, they were being carried out because of the cooperation between the native of those border environments. So he may have issues with that. And I'm not surprised about 13 states have gone to court to challenge that executive order.
So 18 states, actually.
18 at the last count. Now, if you look at that, it looks like there will be more problems with the executive orders, legal problems, at least from what we are seeing now. What challenges do you see him surmounting at this point with those executive orders? Will they come in the immediacy, or, will he have to, dilly-dally and, make some moves with the legal battles?
Well, they are not going to be that effective immediately, because he has signed the executive order. The personnel that would run them would now be coming on board. They will start making announcements of appointment as he has started yesterday. You understand? Some of them will not function without a Secretary of State. Some will not function without the Secretary for Homeland Security. So all these things would delay a little. But as Prof said, within the next 100 days, we will see the full manifestation of the ones that will be successful and the ones that will not be successful.
Let's look at some aspects. I was looking at the last statement around Joe Biden, and some people said some of his shortcomings included 2 different wars away from American borders. Now, we're talking about the Gaza war, Palestine, the Hamas and the Israel. And then, of course, you're talking about the Russia-Ukraine war. Said there are shortcomings because he kept on pumping money. Joe Biden kept on pumping money to support Ukraine in these battles. But then look at the statements from Donald Trump. It looks like it's a whole world of difference between both of those guys. And Americans what we are saying, the indication is that they prefer the Trump style to wasting so much of their money and sending their soldiers out there to support, those other parties in war.
To start with, war is an aspect of international relations. So it's always an option on the table when negotiation fails. So fighting war is not something that is strange. And some leaders use war as a diversionary tactic when they're having problem on the home front.
Absolutely.
They start a war somewhere, a war that is in line with the interests of the nation, so that people will focus on the war and forget about the failure that they are going through. It has happened in history. And Trump, being a politician, he played politics with it, attributing interference into foreign affairs to the Democrat Party. And if you have looked at the First World War, the Second World War, all those wars took up when Democrat presidents were in charge. You understand? But he would not say that, well, when they went to Gulf the first time, George Bush Sr. was there. When they went the second time after 9/11, it was also George Bush Jr. Both were Republicans. He would not say that. But when you now begin to use that, he was just playing politics with it because American interests were involved. NATO versus Ukraine was the issue that led to Ukraine war. NATO was going to join Ukraine. Ukraine was going to join NATO. Russia kicked against it. And Russia decided to do what? Attack Ukraine. And NATO has an Article 5 that an injury to one is an injury to all. And when one is attacked, others must respond. So that was what led to that. It's in American interest. At the center of American foreign policy is Israel. Gaza, Hamas leaders attack and kidnap Israeli citizens. And of course, Israel responded by starting to bombard Gaza. That is also in American interest. So you cannot pretend that he's now going to say, Netanyahu, I don't want to hear anything from you. This is what I will do. He's not going to do that. When in his first term, he moved the capital, the embassy of the United States from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem against all odds. And when he said his own peace, Middle East policy was 100% in favor of Israel, and the Syrians and other Arab nations kicked against it and know this is lopsided, that why would you do such? And he did not even invite Palestinian representatives to be part of the unveiling of that policy. So he had done that in the past. So he's not going to just abandon Israel now. But what he said he would do was to look for a peaceful way of resolving the matter. Well, that would be a welcome development because that's what everybody wants to see. Enough of all these wars.
Yeah, enough of the wars. But talking of the war, let's look at Ukraine and Russia. Trump has said he was going to end this war. He promised to end the war even before he became the president. And now he's the president. What are the things we'll be looking forward to him doing, especially the first steps that will be carried out in ending this war? Do you also think he can really end this war?
It's going to be easy for him. Why? Because Putin is not his own enemy. He had never seen Putin as an enemy. He saw him as an ally. They relate. In fact, Putin would prefer to relate with him more than he would have done with Biden. So that relationship, and of course, Zelensky too has this respect for Trump. So that advantage he has. So it's going to be easy for him to now say, hey guys, come, let's put an end to this thing. What exactly do you want?
So they are going to Georgia now, not
exactly.
Let's look at...
especially due to the fact that he is not going to be putting the U.S. money to the prosecution of the war. So war is expensive. And if it's not funded, definitely you have to put an end to it.
Let's talk about some of the policies as it hits home right there. January 6 rioters, they got pardoned. What kind of a marker is that setting for the United States?
He's following the precedents already set.
By?
In the twilight of his departure, Biden pardoned his son. Because he's his son, Abi. But he committed a crime. So these are his people. They've revolted to support him. The best they can do for them is to grant them that amnesty.
So can we call them political prisoners?
Go and sin no more. So that is a political move, very brilliant one on his part. And of course, those guys will go. Not that they will start committing crime. A good number of them do not have criminal record. They were just passionate. They responded emotionally. And that's what's the way Trump sees it. You understand? And that's why that pardon will be a welcome one for the people affected and, of course, some majority parts of America.
Okay, let's talk about birthright citizenship. Now, a lot of people are already, having questions around it. It's not just the one that's gotten a lot of attention. And people talking about, we discussed about the illegal immigrants already, but then some people start talking about his statements about racism and how he plans to address it in the United States. But then let's talk about that one, the birthright citizenship that we actually, have in front of us.
It's just an attempt to check immigration. So when you know that when you are pregnant and your son or daughter or your child will not be an automatic American citizen, you won't have cause to come there and say, I want to go and give birth to this child in the United States. The UK has started this sometimes ago, so it's not the first to now bring that up. So we can't say he has done a bad thing.
Okay.
It's just population control, if you might look at it from that angle.
To checkmate.
Is it also good for the economy of the nation?
Well, we could not say it's good for the economy.
Infrastructure, development.
Yeah, because America has working population that are indigenous. You understand? So if they have that, unlike the UK that doesn't have, UK does not have indigenous personnel that can fill in. That's why their own immigration policy is always suffering a backlash compared to the US that has, in fact, they have too many idle hands, and that's why they are always having this high spike in crime rate and all that. But they have people that they can train. They have people who are disgruntled because they lost their job to some foreigners or to the fact that the company folded up and relocated elsewhere. Not due to infrastructure, but because they feel they can produce cheaper in those countries. These are some things that Trump is now coming to reverse. Our factories will run again. And some countries will gain from those moves, some will not gain. So it's not going to be, it's a two-way thing, but America will gain from both ends anyway.
Okay, Mr. Badejoko, let's look at Trump saying his mantra has been America for America. And, during his inauguration, I have an excerpt of his speech here that says, during every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. And a lot of people are saying, there's been a lot of reaction to this, and of course to the statement saying America for America. Now, are we saying, or should we say Trump is a racist? Or because people are saying that's not the image of America. What's your thought about that?
To attribute that to racism would be wrong. America is a multiracial society, and he did not say America for whites or America for black. He said America what? For Americans, irrespective of race. So we can't attribute that to racism. We would rather attribute that to patriotism.
Okay. You
understand? Nationalism. That's what we will attribute it to. And it's part of the Republican value, which he is seeking to uphold. So he's not in any way doing the wrong thing by saying that.
Okay, let's also look at the economy. Victor, you want to?
Yeah, because the economical part is something that is very interesting. It was supported by billionaire friends. We had likes of Mark Zuckerberg. Elon Musk, who has been very loud. As a matter of fact, some people are pointing at some of the gestures of Elon Musk during the inauguration, the Nazi salute, amongst other things. Now we're talking about the tech bros in the house and the cryptocurrency. And it's a very hyper-competitive market that we have now. Is this a new dispensation, so to speak, when you talk about the currency?
That's why it says a lot of people will gain. That's what he used, part of what he used to get the younger population. Not just to promise them rhetorics. He's involved in cryptocurrency. He has a Trump coin.
Yeah, we said that.
And he's also
people were scared it was a rock pool.
You understand? He's also part of some other projects within the crypto markets. And he's now going to have a crypto reserve, a Bitcoin reserve. You understand? That is a plus for cryptocurrency and for the tech world generally. And of course, having an ally like Elon Musk, Zuckerberg, these are the tech guys. You understand? He said something during this campaign. He said, we have to protect our genius. We don't have much of them around. So the few ones we have, we need to protect them. This is something other leaders should learn from. You can't just be castigating your genius because of some funny policies. No, you need to do policies that will protect them. You just make sure that they do not do things that will affect the interests or the lives of the populace. That's the thing that they should also be doing. Because these guys have created jobs.
Yeah.
They've given a platform that has led to creation of opportunities for the young population, even the entire globe. And of course, they have led to what? Influx of investment into the country, which is the way to go. In fact, other countries are trying to emulate, China especially. So when I look at all this, you will attribute it to it's America for Americans.
How did they get there? Because at first they were against, that sort of move, cryptocurrency. Now we don't want that.
Trump has never been against.
No, I'm talking about America generally now.
Because of the governments in place. You understand? The Democrats were not really in tune with it because they were looking at it from the angle that what? When you have a cryptocurrency and allow it to thrive, it will rival their dollar. Now it's coming to set up a reserve for Bitcoin, meaning that what? They have adopted that. And every other crypto will have to rally around the Bitcoin to really be relevant within the US. So that is a way around this, rather than condemning it, because whether we like it or not, some countries have embraced it. And it's an innovation that cannot be stopped. So it's rather than fighting or militating against it, why don't you key into it and see how you can use it to your advantage?
Okay. Let's talk about, still on economy now, the tariffs. He called it beautiful tariffs on products coming from the likes of China, and a lot of people have been asking questions. Now, my point is this. If you are increasing those tariffs, the consumers are going to be paying more. Are they not going to be the Americans who will be paying more? How does he exactly help the economy of the nation? How does he help the people of America if you're putting them first and they're paying more?
I heard Prof say something like that. But that can only be attributed to a country like Nigeria, not the US. Why? The US have the capacity to reproduce even something of better quality than what is coming in.
Okay.
You understand? And he said we would start reproducing, meaning that it will use the tariff to discourage the importation so that they would buy the local alternative and still be. So Americans will not be losing here. They will rather be consuming their own.
So they'll switch to their own.
That is what would happen. You understand? So it's a developing countries or a country that lacks production capacity like ours or without infrastructure. Those are countries that can affect. Country that relies heavily on importation. And you now want to switch. Definitely there will be a backlash. But in a country that already has the capacity, that they even shut down some factories that will now start working again. I tell you, what the Chinese will be looking at is either to forget the US and look at other countries like Nigeria where they can be dumping their goods, or partner with them and now relocate the factory back to the US and start producing over there. After all, they both have the advantage of working population. So it's not a matter, but it's just that they will have to now pay more because Americans do not believe in slavery when it comes to labor workers.
Well, while speaking with Prof earlier on, Fumbi made a point about the BRICS and the dollar. It's a huge war now, talking about the dollar's value in the international market. A lot of questions hanging around. Do you think Donald Trump will be able to get the job done, in the battle against the BRICS?
He has...
what chances does the dollar have against the BRICS? And now that it looks like they are trying to strengthen, the BRICS against the dollar, and they are really fighting it. Trump now is having issues. And of course, do you think the countries for BRICS will have issues with the US?
They will not, because some of them have direct bilateral relationship with the US.
Okay.
So BRICS will not conflict with that. And BRICS is still a work in progress. In as much as the dollar economy will not be stagnant, it's still going to be moving. BRICS will still playing that catch-up. So they need more to do. And if you look at the BRICS, their focus is more on the developing countries, not the advanced countries. The advanced countries have already taken the dollars on their own, and they will still be trading. Where I think he will bring up is the drilling, that they will now not buy oil from the world market, but they will be using their own oil. Whenever that happens, it causes glut in the market because America is one of the highest consumer of crude oil, the highest buyer, rather, of these crude oil products. We may have a situation where a country like Nigeria may not really benefit because it would bring down the price of the product. And if you have projected $75 per barrel and somebody is coming up with a policy or a move that is likely to crash the price of dollar by like 20 or 30%, meaning that your financial projection will be may be affected.
Aren't we stuck in the middle of something now? We have alliance now with the BRICS, and we are trying to create that maintain a relationship with the America. How does it work for us from this point on?
Well, Nigeria is a beautiful bride. It's just that we've not really had government in place that can take advantage of our potentials. You understand? 1 out of every 4 black men or women that you see out there is a Nigerian. We have the population. We have the resources. We have the intellectual capacity to really put some things in place. But we're not taking advantage of this. We have allowed politics to really, rubbish whatever progress that we are supposed to have made as a nation. And that is where we have issue. I wish that this president will see all these things and begin to make some strategic move now that will position. You don't need to rush at Trump. I would rather even you don't expect anything from him. Just be on your own. Focus on, because every great nation of the world, the first thing they did, Prof mentioned this too when he was making, first thing America did, when Europe were trying to do their industrial revolution and making noise about it, America was also developing. They were minding their own business. The first thing they did was to develop capacity. So by the time they launched out powerfully and they become a force to reckon with. Nigeria should be focusing. That's why when I see our president, he travel to this, you are wasting money, you are wasting time, you are wasting resources. You have the think tank here, you have people here that you can rally to see how we can look for a local solution to all of our problems. That is what great and powerful nations have done, because by the time you are looking, you are exposing yourself, and they will not do anything that will be to their advantage or will not be to their advantage. America cannot have you 10 naira and not look for a way to get 20 naira back in return. That is their policy, and that's what has been working for them. After the 2 wars, they offered to rebuild the destroyed nation, but conditionally, they gave them loan, they also supply personnel, and you have to buy from them to rebuild your nation. Look at what they will get back, and the loan is not without interest. Ukraine now, it is their businessmen that will go to Ukraine and start rebuilding the place, because they have sponsored Ukraine, and there's no way you would not say they cannot do that. So they will still gain from rebuilding the country. Gaza will now, you have Americans going to Gaza, signing bilateral with the Hamas, and they start rebuilding those infrastructure, and Gaza will be indebted. So these are things that they will do, and it's because they have the capacity to do such. So countries like Nigeria just need to calm down, begin to strategize on how to benefit from both angles. After all, we are not aligned as a nation. That's where we belong. We shouldn't really be seen romancing a side too much. You need to just maintain your neutrality so that you will not be facing some challenges from either of the side. So that's what we should do. But for Trump, he has come out with what he's going to do in the immediate. He will still come out with other things which we don't know yet. But knowing his personality, knowing the party he represents, there will definitely be what will be to the advantage of the United States.
Okay, let's look at the impact on Africa's economy and, of course, what Nigeria should expect.
I just said what Nigeria should expect. Now, Africa as a whole, South Africa is part of BRICS, so they may not. We'll be looking at the Arab wars, who would want to look at how he will handle the Gaza situation. That is what will determine whether or not he's going to enjoy their patronage. Of course, he has some ally in the UAE, he has some ally in Saudi Arabia, but they were not happy with the development in Gaza. So he needs to really realign with those ones, and of course, because he's now going to produce, he needs to look for markets to ship out the excesses. So he can't afford to make enemies outside of the US. So that is the thing. Now, what other countries will now be, and it would also be needing some raw materials, which Africa has in abundance. So those countries that has huge deposits of these minerals are the ones that their government need to know what they are doing, so that they need to position themselves strategically. And if they can come out as a bloc, AU, ECOWAS, it's not going to be a bad idea. But the thing is, Africa has been scrambled for in the past. The scramble still continues. You understand? That's why they've not been coming as a bloc like the EU will do. They always come, the Francophone will begin to pull their own, and the Anglophones will also be doing their own thing. And the Arab will also be saying, well, we will not cooperate with you guys. So those are the three major blocs, the Anglophone, the Francophone, and the Arabs, that really divide Africa along these blocks, and they are not allowing them to work together the way the European Union work together as a bloc.
All right, so as we gradually start to wind up in this conversation, I was very much interested in something you said earlier, and it got me thinking when you mentioned that even though they have spent about 250 years in democracy, they are still not perfect. Nigeria, we still have teething problems as we speak, but we have spent quite a number of years. What are the things that we need to see? What are the values we need to imbibe? We saw the electionary process. We saw what happened back in 2021, and we have seen the difference now, in the last elections that they held. We have seen what has come of the inauguration, some of the political moves being made in there. What are the things that Nigeria needs to learn to become a superpower, even if not a world power, but to maintain ourselves, to put ourselves up as the real giants of Africa, not just on paper?
Well, it will take us a while, because this class of politicians will have to first quit the state.
This old class of politicians?
They've spent their ideas. And that's why they're not doing anything that is new, unique. They're not proactive. They are mostly reactive in their approach to governance.
How many years behind do you think we are when it comes to this move?
Like I said earlier, I wouldn't want a situation where we'll be comparing ourselves to the US. US has a history. Yes, they were colonized, but they fought for their own independence. It wasn't handed over to them. It was a bloody war that led to the independence. And at the inception, they agreed 13 colonies came to form the United States of America. There were 13 initially. Now, some of these 13 had been broken into other states, and some were adopted into the states. And the condition was that this is the core value. You will not go against this. And they bought some. Then they also expanded, conquered some to form the 50 that they have now. You understand? The state emerged based on the due process. They evolved naturally based on the Americans. But in Nigeria, we started up as a colony too. We did not fight together. We were just talking, and it was our talking that gave us the independence. And even as at the time we got it, in fairness, we were not ready, because the nationalists were not on the same page. For instance, it was only a Sikh that wanted a united Nigeria without any differences.
That's Nnamdi Azikiwe.
Yeah. Both Awolowo and Balewa were saying, and Ahmadu Bello were saying, come, let us not forget our differences, because we are not the same people. You understand? But that was not factored into consideration. And so we started up this with a fragile, and the weaknesses that we had created a lot of problem that allowed the military to come up. The military were there for 13 straight years, dividing the countries into states. They were just created based on personal interest. Nationalism was not involved. Ethnic nationals were not considered. And that's why agitation had begun all along. And when now that we are now in the same democracy, you still have this, everything that we want to do with rather take ethnic dimension or religious dimension. So
Okay.
these are things, rather than see ourselves as Nigerian, no, I'm a Yoruba, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Hausa. Those are the things that we, first of all, put forward, which is not helping our progress. So America will not see that I'm Latino. It is, I'm American. So we need to, first of all, transit to that level before we begin to now see. It would work with every other thing that we want to do.
All right.
All what we have now is slowing us down and it's not working.
Thank you very much, Mr. Badejoko. But before we allow you go this morning, lastly on the program, President Trump, or the President of the United States, is usually referred to as the President of the world. Now, what's the hope of the world? Talking of Trump's second coming.
I don't believe that one president can be president of the world. It's just that, like I told you, when they came out of their isolationism, they came powerfully. And they came after a bloody war that had weakened the other powers. And so they became the new landlord. And since then, they've been maintaining that hegemony. Even after the Second World War, when the Soviet Union tried to rival them, they were still able to stand their ground until they saw to the disintegration of the Soviet Union. That's why they seem to be the police. They have the strongest military power. They have the economy. They have all of that. So that's why when their election always capture global attention, and they always want to listen to who the winner is or what the winner will say, like we have discussing Trump now. It shouldn't be any of our business if it is to be another country. For instance, how much of Ghana's inaugural speech did we discuss? Do you understand how many countries discussed Tinubu's own when he might? So these are things. But that's why I said earlier that other nations need to develop capacity. Otherwise, we'll continue to be at the mercy of these countries. And America has soon to be the major financier of NATO. NATO is the only military alliance that we have in the world now. And that's why, and it's a very powerful alliance because it contains most of the first world countries. So, and they are the center of it. So, America putting more money, they are taking advantage of the wealth that they have. Other countries should also focus on how they will also create their own wealth so that they can match up. China is so close, but they are still a little bit distant.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for allowing us pick your brains this morning on Trump's presidency, or the second coming of Trump, like Fumbi said today. Well, it's been a wonderful conversation right here this morning. And of course, we have been joined by political analyst, Mr. Sumbo Badejoko. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
We go on a break now to enjoy updates from the ever exciting world of sports. Keep it locked on.